Welcome back to part 2, and I'm delighted to welcome Matt back to the studio. Hey brother, how you doing?
Are you all right?
I'm really good. I'm really good. And we're back with the Glarry bass post the work. You saw the work being done, and today Matt's going to have a little look at it. We're going to talk about what I have done, all coming right up. Okay, so you probably remember the last video I did, which was doing the upgrade work on the Glarry bass, because there were quite a few things wrong with it. It had an appalling neck break angle, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the neck was so far forward that there was no way of getting the action down, no way of adjusting these bridge saddles because they were right down on the deck.
Yeah.
And there was no way of adjusting them. They're no longer down the deck, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So we couldn't do anything with the bridge height. We couldn't do anything with the action. And the neck relief really wasn't helping because that wasn't adjusted correctly either, meaning that our string action was about ½ an inch high. It was also suffering quite severely from radio frequency noise and an issue with the ground connection between the ground and the bridge. So that was something else that needed doing. And of course, once I'd done a proper setup and I'd put a shim in the neck, we could then set the action, the relief and the intonation. There was also quite a lot of rough spots on the back of the neck, and there was quite a lot of fret sprout as well, and the back of the neck was really unfinished, wasn't it?
Yep.
And we had a little bit of solder under the scratch plate, and finally, which was the first thing I did, we had the A string tuner was jumping off its cog, so could not tune. So we replaced the A string tuner, we shimmed the neck, we raised the bridge, we intonated the bass, we adjusted the relief. While I had it open, I soldered on the ground wire to the bridge so that we properly earthed it. I also put some spare shielding foil underneath, just from the control cavity round and up to the pickup point. So after that resoldering, I also sanded for an hour. I sanded the neck right from 350 grit right the way up to 2500 grit, and then wire-walled the neck. I also cleaned the solder off from underneath the scratch plate and also got rid of all that sawdust. First thing that you notice, if you whack the volume up,
Yep, we're all up.
and take your hand off, there we go. The RF interference has been fixed by that bit of shielding and that regrounding that ground wire. So that's rather nice.
It is always
What do you
nice.
think of the neck?
Well, the neck. If we turn it around so people can see where you've sanded, slight difference, but just looks like you've been playing it a lot.
Yeah.
It is super smooth.
Super smooth.
Smooth. There's nothing there. It's just
No rough spots.
silky.
No inconsistencies.
No.
Actually, it's really nice. I have to say, even though I did the work myself, it's probably the nicest neck I've played in a long time. It's got that real nice sheen type feel about it, hasn't it?
Just slide.
Real slide.
Yeah.
No sticking on that neck, that's
No.
for sure.
And
And I've
the,
also redressed all the frets
Yep.
and sorted out the fret sprout.
No blood coming off yet.
No
so
blood
yeah,
this
so it's
time,
fine.
that's right. And obviously the major change was I've put a shim, only a card shim at this point.
Right.
So it was put in as a temporary measure,
I can probably
and
see
you can
there.
just see that little gap. But when I tried it after putting the shim in, the sustained and resonance through the body and the neck was so nice. I thought, what's the point in taking it out? It's sorted it out. And when I first put the strings back on it, with the saddles right the way down the bottom, it was touching on the neck. So I knew I'd got the break angle sorted out, which allowed me to lift these up, which allowed all of the normal adjustment that you'd want to do on a guitar. I've also adjusted the truss rod, so the action is absolutely perfect. So if you fret out the first and last, fret, that's it, and then try and
Yep.
There you
and
go.
I can see right through it.
barely see right through it. Yeah, so you've got a decent amount of relief. You need a little bit more relief in a bass than you do in a guitar because of the size of the strings and the frequency that they oscillate at.
Yep.
They also make a wider arc, so you have to leave a little bit more under the middle of the fretboard in terms of relief.
Yep.
I didn't change or shave down the nut, because once I'd sorted out the relief, it actually worked out that that nut was only marginally high, and it really wasn't worth the aggro of taking it off. I've also raised the pickups a little bit to get a better signal.
Yep.
I cleaned out all of the electronics and the pots while I had the scratch plate off and removed all that horrible gunk that was behind it. And I've changed the A tuner, the S. So
you got a new one?
I bought a new one,
Yep.
and a direct replacement. It happened to be exactly the same size, so I didn't even need to change out the bushing.
No, but you
all
can't
the
even-
screws.
Can't even tell it's different, can you?
You can't, no. It's a lot of guitar for not a lot of money. And while nobody expects there to be major issues, and there were a couple of major issues, I would consider that the tuner not working and the need for a shim on the neck, I don't consider that something that a standard guitar player would necessarily, or bass player would be able to set up for themselves.
No.
That's kind of a luthier sort of technician job, so that would have cost people to do. And Glarry very kindly said they would take this bass back and replace it. They would have just binned it, which would have been a terrible waste of wood.
Exactly. So how long did it take you to do all that?
Right, the neck alone, refinishing the neck, was about an hour and a half's work, sanding and rubbing that down. That was, for me, that's the most important part of the job, other than the setup, because it's the one thing that aids your playing. Changing out the tuner took literally 10 minutes.
Yep.
Doing all of the work on the electronics was about another hour. I would say a good hour on setup, because when you set up a guitar, I go through the whole train process, tune it, sort out the relief and the truss rod. I adjust the action, intonation, and then noodle around on it for a bit. And I did that 2 or 3 times. So I would say I was probably messing with it for another couple of hours. So all in all, about 6 hours work to get it from almost unplayable to a state where, well, how do you feel it is? Is it?
Yeah, it's good. I did have a little bit of a play before we started.
Just to warm yourself up.
Just to warm up, yeah. But yeah, it's completely different. You wouldn't think it was the same bass just from playing it, because there's so much change in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't unplayable before,
No.
but it is.
It was this close to unplayable.
But you could still get,
because that was the height of the action. Yeah, you managed to get a tune out of it. My fingers weren't strong enough really to fret it out properly and play it properly.
Yeah, but it's going to a beginner.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
There it is. That's all the work, and I'm delighted that you're pleased with the results. And you know, to say that it feels like a different instrument, that's how I felt. But it's lovely to have that verified by a bona fide bass player. So, shall we have a little listen?
Yeah, shall we? Much better.
That was
response in the
literally
time.
just a little bit of switch cleaner.
Yep. Yeah, much nicer to play. And even up there, it's very playable.
And listen to the sustain. No choking out. That note's still ringing. Gone.
Much nicer to play. And yeah, as you say, when you got something nice to play, it's you're going to want to play it more.
Yeah, for sure.
When you've got that high relief and making it really hard to fret,
Yeah.
you're going to give up.
Yeah, I think a high action's probably the bane of most new players.
Really nice sustain on it now, isn't there?
Shocking, really, considering that we've shimmed the neck. There we go.
All right.
Glarry bass all fixed, and I'd like to say a big thank you to Matt for coming back in again. Cheers,
No
man.
worries,
Thanks
you.
very much. If you've enjoyed it, as always, give us a thumbs up. That's always good. And if you haven't yet, do subscribe, and because it can't hurt. And if you do subscribe, click that bell icon to get notified. I upload every Tone Tuesday, Fretted Friday, and usually now most streaming Sundays as well. And I'll be back really soon with more of the best I can bring you. In the meantime, as always, friends, you take good care.